Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Shifts and Pucks podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at Shifts and Pucks, Facebook.com Shifts and Pucks, YouTube.com Shifts and Pucks. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as part of the Hockey Podcast Network. And which means DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice with player props and live betting. Every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get into the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. Of course, the NHL is back in action. We'll get into that on the podcast here. But new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Dan Stevenson with us from Fireside Chat. Dan, what is going on? How was your break?
It was weird. It's weird being away. I didn't watch a lot of Olympics. I think everybody watched the finals, but I wasn't watching a lot of the qualifying round. But weird to be away from hockey for that long. We're used to a 1 week break at this time of year, but not almost a month.
Yeah, um, it was a great break to talk about right now. Who I'm calling Patty and Selma Simpson, the Flames and the Canucks, just because both of them are just not good hockey teams right now. So it was great to kind of watch some good hockey. It was a tough. We recapped the game with Sean Tyler and I recapped the game and the Canadian moments, so we won't get into all of that. Uh, so I mean, getting up at five. I mean, it was disappointing to see both the men and the women's team lose to the U.S. But there, I mean, yeah, it's good. It was good to have the Olympic break, and now we are back into sort of the pre-stretch runs of the playoffs. We are, as of this, uh, here we are less than a week away from the trade deadline. There's a lot of questions about the Flames and what they're going to do. We'll get into that. But there's also some news we do need to talk about before we get into that, and including uh, the Flames officially announcing that Jonathan Huberdeau is done for the rest of the year. He got injured uh, just before a couple of games before the Olympic break. And I think everybody knew that was a pretty much a long-term injury, and they weren't expecting him back. But the Flames did announce that's over. We kind of talked about that just before the Olympic break of what was expected. So, uh, yeah, a few other injuries, other interesting notes to talk about. Owen Say, who has been playing with the Calgary Wranglers, is out for the season as well. He has a lower body injury, and that's kind of. I see some people may say that that's not big news. You've got Dustin Wolf and Devin Cooley, but your goaltending depth as you go forward is always important. And in terms of development, it sucks for Owen Say, who did get a backup opportunity in an emergency call-up basis or for one game with the Flames, but did not travel on the road. There was a big controversy with the Devin Cooley sickness on a road trip in January. I want to say early January, Dan. Was that early to mid-January?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, where Devin Cooley uh, couldn't like basically was like at 0% and couldn't play, and Dustin Wolf had to play back to back.
On
Um,
the Owen Say thing, if I can, yes, it sucks for him. I also think that I don't know that Owen Say is if it's going to affect his development all that much. I think he's a decent minor league goaltender. I don't think Owen Say is anywhere near like the next Kippersoff or the next Wolf or even the next Cooley. So it sucks for him, but I think that he will come back. I don't think that Prosvetov sticks around next year, so I think that the net will be open for Owen Say when he's ready.
yeah, I think that's kind of where I mean
Like
it's
if I was
just
Prosvetov, I wouldn't stick around the AHL. I'd go back to the KHL.
yeah, I think he's going back to the KHL. I would imagine, especially when Cooley signed that contract. I think you saw the writing on the wall for Prosvetov. Um, so yeah, imagine he's either going to find another NHL team or he's going back to the KHL for sure. Cole Reshny did suffer a lower body injury, but he is back in the lineup. So that's some good news because Cullen Potter is out for the year. And so I don't think he wanted another. I think from the Flames' perspective, it would have been bad news to have Rushney out, but it was a little scary. But he is back in the lineup. Um, Another couple of other names. I forgot to put this one on the list, but of course, keeping an eye on Ethan Whitenbach here, who has been nominated for a Hobie Baker Award, 55 points. Um, I mean, I think we'll be having. We're not going to put him on the agenda for this year. I think this is probably an off-season training camp. I think we need to see him in the lineup at a Flames camp before we can declare where he is. I think everybody's getting. I understand the excitement, but I kind of want to see him in a either red and white Wranglers jersey or a red and white Penticton or where what I'm sorry, I forgot Penticton's over. The young star, some sort of young stars tournament before we give him before we declare anything with Eaton Whitenbach. It's great that he's having this great success in the NCAA, but I don't want to pencil him into or pen him into a lineup yet. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I mean, I think especially when you're in a rebuild like the Flames are, or rebiggle or whatever we want to call it, I think that there's a tendency to want to rush guys into the pros very quickly. And I think if he wants to stay in college for a couple of years, that's totally fine if he can, or if that's what he wants to do, because I don't know that there's a lot of reason to rush him up. Yes, he's probably going to win the Hobie Baker. Yes, that's exciting, but so did Jordan Leopold. And, he didn't turn into he was a serviceable NHLer, but it's not like he was the next, coming of Bobby Orr. So, I think it's promising, but we've still got to remember that this kid has a lot of development to do and may not end up, just because you win the Hobie Baker doesn't mean you're going to the Hall of Fame.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's totally fair. It's just one of those things that you do need to wait on. The other,
but while we're talking about him though, I mean, Wattenbach, he was drafted in what round? I always forget.
The fifth, I believe.
The fifth round. And, I think this goes back to the fact that the Flames have been for a long time a really good team late in the draft. They found Goudreau late. They found him late. They found Wolf in the 7th round. Like, I think we need to give the Flames their flowers for being good in the draft. And as we look ahead to, the trade deadline here, the Flames may not get a fifth, but if they can may not get a first, but if they can get a fifth, a sixth, a fourth, I think they can, they've shown they can turn those things into serviceable assets.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Dustin Wolf, Andrew Mangiapane, just to name a few. I mean, although Mangiapane isn't great for the Oilers right now, he was serviceable for the Flames. So yeah, they've been good in that.
You know what? At a fourth or fifth, serviceable for the Flames is what you expect.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. If you get really any games, you're kind of laughing a bit. So, and then Abram Weeb. Abram Weeb was the kind of I'm going to use the air quotes here, throw in the Rasmus Anderson trade. He has been named Defenseman of the Week for 3 weeks in a row in the NCAA. Of course, he played with the Chilliwack Chiefs in the BCHL from Mission. I need to contact the Chilliwack coach because I want to have a conversation with him. But certainly, I mean, that is also something interesting that I think when he gets to a training camp or a prospects camp, he's someone that people can keep an eye on. And that's great. All of these the story about Eaton Whitenbach and the Abram Weeb is where the Flames have been effective in terms of this rebiggle, is they are selling a little bit of hope. Yeah. It's there. And I mean, because if you're not going to win, you got to sell some hope. And the Flames have done a really good job of that with these players. So it just keeps an eye on. I mean, got to wait till Abram Weeb wears a Calgary Flame jersey to see where he sits. But good sign. The Rasmus Anderson trade actually is looking more and more like a better trade than a lot of us thought when that trade was made in January. I think a lot of people were a little underwhelmed, but Zach Whitecloud has become a really valuable piece to this team. And then you've got that first round pick, which is a little bit later, which is not till 27. That's fine. And then Abram Lieb is a guy that is making some progress. So this trade is looking a lot better for the Flames than I think a lot of people thought at the time.
And, when we talk about guys like Wattenbach or Weeb or guys like this, and like you said, selling some hope, fans want the big name. Fans want the Gavin McKenna. Fans want the McDavid. Fans want the star. But, we're seeing, I think, in Edmonton that one player does not make a Stanley Cup team. And I think San Jose is a great example of this. Yes, they've got a great star, but I think they've got good young pieces like Will Smith around him and other players. So, yes, the Flames may not have that pinnacle piece yet, but like you said, I think we're starting to see here from the Flames that they are putting together the pieces they're going to need, the pieces, the other 17 players dressed on the ice at the same time. And it's going to be, it's not a 1 year or 2 year thing. There's going to be a 3, 4, 5 year rebuild, depending on how you look at it. So I think that it's great to see that the Flames are slowly putting those pieces in around it. And I think because of that, everything's going to come together a lot quicker than maybe it would have otherwise.
Well, and hockey is a team game, Dan. I mean, I think people like the whole well, there were a number of, I'm not going to get into the shit show of the conversations that happened this week, but the particular one around Connor McDavid, where I had to defend Connor McDavid. Like I felt but you look at that the 3-on-3, there was, in that whole game, you had the lineup of McDavid, McKinnon, and Celebrini, but really after that, they were kind of a one-line team in that gold medal in the medal round, and I think that kind of hurt the Canadian team as you went forward. So, and in Edmonton, you're looking at the same problems continuing to plague that organization that has plagued them the last couple of years. There's a question of goaltending. There's a question on the blue line. That still remains. Yes, they have McDavid and Draisaitl, but the team around them still has a ton of questions. So
Chicago's the same way, right? Good young player, nothing around him.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I thought was interesting in the San Jose game, and there's only one game to recap, so I'm not going to spend a heck of a lot of time on it, but boy, did Zane Parekh and Sam Dickinson feel to me like they had some of very similar issues to deal with in terms of learning this game. I mean, yes, both of them have some very high-end offensive ability, but they both need to work on their defensive game. And that's that's part of this. And I think let's start. I mean, of course, nobody here is expecting the Flames to make the playoffs. The Flames are going to be a pretty significant, interesting name as we get to the trade deadline, and we'll get to those names in a moment. But I do want to start kind of looking at what we're expecting from the Flames this year, and I think for the rest of the year. And I think one of the names that is going to be the first one is Zane Parekh. I think he was under the expectation of coming into this Olympic break, putting on some weight. I thought that San Jose game was a bit of a struggle for him, for me. But again, that's one game coming back. And I think that this is going to be, I think some fans are going to be frustrated with the way that the Flames are going to deploy Zane Parekh for the rest of the year. But I think what they're doing is absolutely right. You're not expecting him to become a Captain America or Captain Canada on a 2 or 3 week break, but the growth process, the strength process, that still has to all be in play here as we continue through the rest of the regular season and really getting into training camp next year.
Yeah, and I think Zane Parekh, I think they will give him chances and opportunities to, maybe play a lot of minutes, to be that guy, that number one guy, because they want to see if he can do it. But I don't think that they're, going to expect a lot from it. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay for where the Flames are. But, I think you and I have been preaching patience for many years now with these guys, and especially with Zane Parekh. And I think that, Zane Parekh, Hunter Brstavich. There's a lot of young guys they want to bring in, but like you said, they have to manage them, and they have to say, we're going to give them options, but we have to be okay if those don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking at his minutes from the San Jose game. He played more in San Jose than he did with the Oilers. 1339 against the Sharks, 12-18 against the Oilers. He played 20 minutes against the Leafs on February 2nd. So they are going to give him ice time. But it was a bit of a struggle for me during that game for Zane Parekh. So, but not surprising. That's okay. I think we're going to have moments where we come on this podcast and said, hey, Zane Parekh had a really good week. And then we're going to have times in this podcast where we're going to say Zane Parekh had a tough week. Matvei Gridin got off to a really good starting in that San Jose game where he hit the post. Of all of these prospects right now, Dan, I got it right now within the organization, what's playing with the Calgary Flames organization, I am the highest on Gridin. I really think that this guy has the ability. I don't want to say he's Johnny Gaudreau, because I don't know if that's a fair comparison to throw on a 19-year-old kid. But I think that he's the most skilled forward the Calgary Flames have in their organization right now. He's got a great shot. As he gets more confident in terms of using it, I'm not saying he's going to be a superstar, but I think that he's got some offensive ability that I'm really.
We've seen guys come in with offensive ability and last a season or two and then kind of fizzle out. So I think he has potential, but I don't think we can say, in less than 30 NHL games that he's a superstar.
No, I'm not saying that. But I think that there's definitely something there if he's able to keep the work ethic up. And I think the sky's the limit for him.
And again, right? I mean, the Flames got him with Vancouver's late round pick the same year they got Gridin. Parekh and Gridin, same draft. So, they got that late round pick. And while fans always want the Flames to get the top 10 picks when they make a trade, if you're trading with contenders, that's not always going to happen. So, I think, again, good on the Flames scouting staff for identifying him.
Yeah. By the way, I just want to get back to Parekh for a second. I have a question for you. This is a way too early question, but I want to put it in your head before we get to the draft because it's just been something I've been percolating about. If the Flames pick number 3, because it's McKenna, Stenberg, people are expecting 1-2. If the Flames end up 3, does Zane Parekh prevent them from taking Christian Verhoff, or do you pick Christian Verhoff even though you have Zane Parekh? I don't think he's the best player available.
I don't think it would prevent you at all. I think, if you're wanting to take Verhoff, I think you have to take best player available when you're rebuilding. And it's not like you only need one good defenseman.
Yeah. I'm just curious about how that goes. And the other reason I'm asking that question is, of course, there's still such a lack of center in this organization. I'm just wondering about that as we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Flames have to try and find a centerman if they can, especially with that number 3 pick. I think defense is your later pick down the road. I don't know if I would say it prevents you, but I think maybe you say, we can defer that defenseman for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, you need lots of good defensemen. You need, 6 good defensemen, just like you need, 12 good forwards. But I think I might take a forward, either take a forward over Verhoff or potentially trade down 1 or 2 picks, get another pick and take your center.
Yeah, maybe. That's
if somebody really wanted Verhoff, I could see the Flames saying, yeah, we'll jump from 3 to 5. We think our guy will be there. Grab a third forward or something.
Yeah. Are you expecting Hunter Brstavich to come back to the Flames before the end of the year?
If a defenseman gets moved, yes. If not, I don't think there's room.
Yeah.
I think with Brstavich, we know what he is, and if they want to leave him in the AHL, I think you can say, Hunter, we know what you are, we know where you are, we know what you need to do. We will pencil you in for next year, but you've still got to earn it coming out of training camp. With Parekh, they can't send him down, so they have to play him. And I think, it might be an odd man out situation for Brstavich.
I could see them. I think there's going to be some Flame fans that won't like this, but I think Parekh and Brzkevich will be in some sort of training camp battle next year for ice time, which I think is great for both of them. I think it's great for Parekh because I think this can keep him motivated, and I think it's great for Brzkevich because I think this is the guy that's feeling a little bit underestimated in all of this, and he was the odd man out. I always kind of like when you put put a chip on somebody's shoulder, and I feel like Brzkevich is going to have one, and it's not going to be a bad thing for him. I mean, he was slighted out in Vancouver, of course, as part of the Elias Lindholm trade, and then he's kind of the odd man out in this situation. I think he can come into camp next year and prove himself, and you get a battle with him and Parekh. I don't think that this hurts this organization in any way, shape, or form.
No, and when you're saying there's a battle, I also don't think that there's only going to be one spot available.
No. Well, no. I mean, I think they have some decisions to make for sure.
They do, but a guy like Jake Bean, I don't think will come back. He's a UFA. They're going to have one more year on Hanley. I could see them trying to flip him at the draft or something. They've got 2 years on Brzkevich. Like I think. Or sorry, on Pakal. Like I think they'll find a way to move a defenseman. I'm still not sure if Whitecloud lasts past the offseason. I think if you need to, you'll make room for both guys.
Yeah. I mean, and there's the option of moving Uyghur to the left side too.
Yeah, I mean Kuznetsov isn't going anywhere. I would say that Uyghur and Kuznetsov are the only guys. Uyghur, Kuznetsov, and Ball, I think, will be here next year. The other three, I think, are interchangeable. And you know what? If you can say to Brzkevich, make us move Whitecloud. Why not?
Yeah. Rory Cairns, are we expecting to see him
for more than just a tryout game or two? Becoming a full-timer after the deadline, kind of see him?
Yeah.
I think so. I think there's a couple guys there that they might look at. If not Cairns, I think a guy like Stromgren needs a look as well. But I think one of those two guys, I think it's going to be Cairns, Morton, or Stromgren. One of them will probably get that full-time call-up after the deadline. I think, honestly, it'll be Cairns because he can play center, and that's what the team needs right now.
Yeah. And, I mean, they'll probably need to find a replacement for Blake Coleman if and when he's traded.
Yes and no. I mean, again, I think that a replacement internally, sure. They've got enough bodies, though, on the wing that you can just move some guys around there. I mean, right now we've got Gridden, Frost, and Coleman. So, you could throw Pospisil on that line. Or, again, if you want to, bring up Stromgren. Like, I don't think that it's going to be hard to find a body to play there for the last 20 games.
Yeah. Well, and they got John Beecher back. I mean, I think everybody kind of forgot about him, but he came back. He's back in the lineup, and I think they're going to give him a bit of a runway here because I think for him and for the team a little bit too, but mostly for him, this is kind of his last shot at NHL opportunity here. He'll be an RFA at the end of the year. I think they're going to give him a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, we have seen Lomberg in and out of the lineup since Marty Pospisil came back, and I think the easiest thing to do would just be to make that last line Pospisil, Beecher, and Lomberg, and then maybe move Klapka into the Coleman spot.
Yeah, that guy's becoming such an intriguing piece of this organization going forward. I don't know where he ends up, but he's becoming more of a problem for opponents to deal with the more that he's learning this game. And I think that this is in part because I think he's been working with Jerome Iginla a little bit, if I understand correctly, and he's starting to find his nastiness, which I think is really going to help him going forward.
Yeah, and we've seen that he can play a bunch of different types of games, right? He can be the nasty guy. We've seen that he's been on the top couple lines and he's been able to be a good puck mover. This is a guy the Flames gave no assets to bring in. Again, credit to their scouting staff. That's kind of our theme of the show here. But if they don't bring a guy up, I think this is Klapka's first NHL season as a full-timer. I would not be opposed to just giving him some more runway to see what he's got.
Yeah. Yeah, give him a long look. Like, why not?
I mean, he's not going down at all. He's not going to be in the AHL next year, but I think just understand where he fits into your lineup because you've played him all over. Where is he best used?
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to start kind of finding that chemistry that people can kind of think about as you continue over the year.
Yeah, and as you were mentioning at the top of the show, Huberdeau's out. I mean, that opens up a wing spot as well, and I think that's why Gridden's going to stay with the Flames. But I think it's going to be interesting as we see some of these guys move into the lineup this year and next year. Some of these young players we're talking about, of where does that leave Huberdeau when and if he's healthy again?
Yeah,
and I think we can have this discussion another time potentially if you want. But I mean, is this the end of Huberdeau? Do you just kind of send him to IR Island and never see the guy again?
That recovery, from my understanding, is an 8-month recovery.
We looked at this on our show before the break, and I think there's only 7 guys that have ever had this surgery, and I think 4 of them came back from it and were never the same. And I mean, I hate to say this, but if you're a worse version of bad Jonathan Huberdeau, the Flames are in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I do one. I
wonder if that could be the NHL's most expensive conditioning stint ever.
Well, this does kind of handcuff the Flames a little bit, because I kind of always wondered a healthy Huberdeau. I mean, you're kind of in this trap as here in some ways. We won't go into the trade deadline a bit here, but I mean, I think they're going to have to. I think you have to LTIR him and hope that there's some space on Daryl's farm and Michael Stone's room is still available, and maybe you can put Huberdeau there to do some work, and if you need him, bring him up. But I think that's essentially an untradeable contract now.
Putting him out to pasture on the Sutter farm.
Yeah, unless someone needs to get to the ceiling, maybe for some salary cap purposes. But I don't
floor,
think
probably nobody's taking them to get to the top, but maybe to the floor.
Yeah, the floor that.
And I think honestly, the Flames may need that going forward too, especially if they end up losing Coleman and Kadri. I mean, that's over $10 million right there.
Yeah. Before we get into that part, what are we expecting from the goaltending as we head to the here? I kind of hope we see a little bit more of Dustin Wolf, because I want to see him. He looked really good against San Jose, but I want to kind of see him regain that focus. I think that this has been a tough year for him. I wouldn't mind him getting a bit of a runway here as a number 1. I mean, we know what we got in Devin Cooley, and I think we're confident in what we have in Dustin Wolf, but I think giving him some confidence going into the offseason, I wonder if he is a guy the U.S. consider for the World Championship team going forward too. But I wouldn't mind seeing him getting a little bit of a runway here.
Yeah, I can see that. The only issue I have is we tend to see that when we give Wolf a lot of work, especially consecutive work, he doesn't look as good. And I think you need to manage that. There's no reason to run this kid hard. There's no reason to, you're not going to make it to the playoffs because, Wolf took you on his back. So I get what you're saying, but I think that, I think that, yes, we want to see more of him, but I'd almost rather see more of Cooley down the stretch and really get him going and make sure we have, a good 2 guys that feel confident next year.
Sure. Where do you find that Wolf kind of runs into the wall? How many games in a row?
I think I'd say 3 or 4. Even if he gets 1 game off, we tend to find that I from what I've seen is the Flames were giving sometimes, Cooley 2 games in a row, and Wolf almost needed that to reset.
Here is what would be my pushback of why I would give Wolf 4 in a row. I want to see where he's at, and then you can develop his off-season regimen to improve that going forward. We know who the number 1 is. We know it's Dustin Wolf, but this is a growing season for him, and that's what I would want to say. I don't think we need to give him more than 3 or 4 in a row. I'm not saying he needs to go on play 20 of the last 25 games. I think that you could probably do a 60-40 split for Wolf, but I do think I wouldn't mind him seeing seen at least one, maybe two, 4 games in a row stretch.
I can see that. I think give him one stretch and see how he goes, but don't think that you've got to ride him if it's not working well.
No. Yeah.
And in the past we've seen the Flames do that, right? We've seen the Flames say, okay, we need to make the playoffs. We need to ride whoever it is, Markstrom or whoever, and that's not required this year.
No. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code XXX. That's code XXX to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, New York. Call 877-78-HOPNY or text HOPENY. Connecticut, call 888. Sorry, I'm reading this on my phone. Call 888-789-77 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois, 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Best bet must win to receive bonus bets, which expires in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see .co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved. So Eric Francis put out a trade list this week as we head into the trade deadlines, giving his odds. I'm going to precurse this, Dan. I think there's going to be a number of Flame fans going on social media after 1 o'clock your time and are going to be very disappointed in what the Flames are going to end up doing, because I don't think it's as much as a lot of people think. I think a lot of people go into trade deadlines, and this is not just a Flames fan base. I see this with a lot of seller bases too. There's a lot of articles like this where people are expecting them to toss a whole bunch of trades out and just rip out your team at the trade deadline. That rarely, if ever, happens. Most of the trades are mostly off-season ones, and it's not easy to make a trade right now. I'd like to remind people that Tyler Myers has been out, was sat out of the Winnipeg game for trade purposes, and that trade has not been consummated yet. Artemi Panarin was out for a little while before they made that trade with the Kings, right? And he had a few options on his table too. I know that the fantasy bookers out there, as we head into WrestleMania season, then the fantasy bookers are out there making all these trades. They're very hard to make in the NHL. That is just the reality of the situation.
They are. And we always as fans overvalue what we have as well. And I think that's the thing when you're looking at these. I mean, I remember last year getting into it with some fans online saying, oh, the Flames should move Kadri to Buffalo. And, I had to say to the people, like, why would he has a no trade? Why would he choose to go to the worst team in the league? Yes, you like their assets and you'd love to get some of those assets back. But realistically, we have to remember there's people here. This isn't just making a game on your, a trade on your Xbox. And how do you convince him to, please, sir, go to the worst team in the league? Like, there's a lot of things that the fantasy trades don't take into account.
Yeah. So let's look at this trade list. And the number one name on Francis's list is Blake Coleman. I think this is I'm 80 to 90% certain that Blake Coleman is not going to be a Flame after the trade deadline. It just feels like the wheels are all turning in that direction. They gave him, he probably could have played before the Olympic break, but they sat him out to recover from the injury. He's back in the lineup now. His family is back in Texas. I think everybody is expecting something to happen. This is the one I do think this will happen, and I think this is the most likely scenario where the Flames do add another late first round pick in the draft.
Is for Coleman?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Coleman right now is the most valuable piece the Flames have.
Yeah.
I think that there's no question there that, yeah, he's probably going to be the guy if, if the Flames move something, which I think they will. He's the one. I think him more than Kadri is going to get them something. He's going to be the guy that'll get them the late first or even the early second and something. I would be surprised at this point if he is a Flame after the deadline. And I also wouldn't be surprised if that's the only real deal the Flames do.
Yeah, I'm kind of. Yeah, if you're setting it at one, if you're setting the over under 1.5, this is the one I think does happen.
There's been a lot of talk openly here where he said he has a 10-team trade list, and he's talked openly with Conroy. Like, I think we planted the seeds that he's probably not going to be here. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. That's the one I think is most likely. I think that this is the one that's going to disappoint a lot of people. I think Nazem Kadri is a Flame after the deadline. I'm sure that there's conversation, but that, first of all, from the Flames' perspective, you're retaining on Rasmus Anderson, you're retaining on Jacob Markstrom. Although Markstrom comes off the books this year, you still have one, or Rasmus comes off the books this year, right?
Both of them do.
Well, okay, so I just don't think Flames ownership is going to be truly excited about retaining on a guy that Murray Edwards has been very high on here. I don't think Murray Edwards and Flames ownership is going to be very excited on paying Nazem Kadri to win a Stanley Cup elsewhere. And I also think that his age, his contract, and I don't think he's been great this year. I think there's been spurts, but I don't know if he's been consistently great this year. And I think with some other centers in this lineup, I don't think that I don't see the Nazem Kadri trade happen. And I also think that you can't trade Nazem Kadri just for the sake of trading Nazem Kadri. You do need to get something for him. And if you're not going to get that now, I don't think there's an issue of waiting for the offseason to trade Nazem Kadri.
No. So you brought up a number of things that I'll try to comment on. So the salary retention. I think the Flames would be willing to do it if they had to, because it would be their third and final salary retention, but the other two come off the books. So I think they would. I think, though, if you look at Kadri's age, like you said, he's 35. And where he is in the lineup, he's a first-line center here. He's not a first-line center on a contending team. So if I'm a contending team and I'm looking at a 35-year-old, I'm looking at that as a rental. I don't want to have 3 years of that deal after this. I think there's other options on the market that would be cheaper, both acquisition and payroll-wise, that I would go after before Kadri.
Yeah.
I think, and is Kadri a bad Flame? I mean, is he costing the team like maybe Huberdeau was? No, he's not. I think even if Nazem Kadri plays out this deal in Calgary and he becomes a good center, I mean, we know the Kadri and the kids thing from a couple of years ago. Even if he just stays here and he becomes the veteran guy, I'm cool with that. Like, if there's no market value, keep him.
Yeah.
You don't need to move him because he's a liability or something like that. I mean, they're going to have $7 million. It's not going to be a matter of cost unless he says, guys, I want to get out of here. I'd be okay if he stays as a Flame. And I don't think the Flames will get, what's a third round centerman worth these days? A 35-year-old third round centerman. I don't think you're going to get much for him.
No, Matt has been claiming the Brock Nelson trade. I just can't see a first and a top prospect.
I think you might get the Brock Nelson trade if he was on his last year of his deal.
Yeah, and he's not. So, yeah, I don't see that one. Third on the list is Zach Whitecloud. And I think that my thought was, I wonder if they're going to flip Zach Whitecloud in this Rasmus Anderson deal to add something else. But Zach Whitecloud has made kind of an immediate impression in Calgary. And they like him. I don't know if I think that this would depend on what they get an offer for. I think that this is a 50-50, maybe actually 40-60. I don't think it happens. I think they want to, if it does happen, it might be in the offseason or next year's trade deadline, but I don't know if it's this year's trade deadline that Zach Whitecloud gets traded.
I don't think that Conroy is going to be out there actively shopping him. I don't think, you're going to be out there trying to say, yes, let's make a move and let's be aggressive in doing so. But I think that there could be teams that come and say, you know what, White Cloud is reliable. White Cloud is a known commodity. We know we're getting there. He's 29. He's on a very reasonable deal. We'd love to chat with you about him. And I think if the right deal landed in Conroy's lap, I think he'd definitely take it. Whether it's at the deadline or not, I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of teams would probably look at that in the offseason and say, hey, we're losing someone we thought we weren't. Here's a cheap replacement. So you also need defensive bodies right now. So I don't think that Conroy is out there, White Cloud, get your White Cloud here, trying to, find someone who will take him. But, I would also not be surprised if he's not a Flame. I think there could be a point where, and we've seen this in other deadlines, you're a GM, your top one or two options are off the board because somebody got them, and you frantically call the Flames, say, I need a defenseman, you've got one, let's talk.
Yeah.
I don't think he's anyone's first choice going into the deadline.
That's true, but it could be one. Yeah, right. And then if that, if other people fall in their lap or fall away, and I mean, they could get an overpay for Zach Whitecloud.
Yeah, and I think if that's going to happen, you're going to see that one come in close to or even after the 1 p.m. deadline. That seems like the kind of thing where you see, oh, crap, we didn't get the guy we wanted. Okay, let's call Calgary and let's hammer something out quickly. And in that case, Conrad would make you overpay.
Yeah. Ryan Lomberg, he's the only UFA. I think he intends to stay. I would think. Do
you do an Olli Jokinen with him, where you trade him away and then bring him back in the offseason?
That's what I'm wondering.
I don't know what Ryan Lomberg is worth to other teams.
I think he's an extra depth piece to have around in the organization. I don't know if he plays regularly on a contending team.
And I think that because who the Flames are and the fact they like him and he likes them, I don't think they would do this without talking to him. And if it's going to anger him at all, is it worth the 5th or 6th? I don't think so.
No. And if he says, guys, I want to be in Calgary, my family's here, I don't want to go away for 2 months on a vacation, I don't think you have to do it. No. And I do think if you're trading Blake Coleman, you're going to want to have him around that dressing room in terms of leadership anyway. So
yeah, we've talked about this too. You're going to need to put an A on somebody. I mean, let's just assume that Coleman's gone and Kadri's gone. Now you've got one veteran, one A in Uyghur.
Yeah. And Hugo was wearing an A as well.
Yeah, I think that the Flames are going to want to keep Lomberg wants to be here. I don't think the return for him is enough to move him.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm trying to move a piece like that, I think I'd be trying to shop Pospisil.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a tough trade to make too, because of his injury history.
Exactly. And he's going to be making 2.5 next year. And I don't think he's going to be worth it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it might be fun to get an asset, but I think there's more value to having Ryan Lomberg in the lineup than a 6th-round pick. Because that's what I think you'd get for him.
Sometimes the best trades that are made, Dan, are the trades that aren't.
Exactly. And again, fans like to see new Flames and buy new jerseys and all those wonderful, wonderful things that they like to do. But, we have to remember that, again, these are people. And if he loves this city. Is it worth getting rid of him? And you want to keep this guy happy for a while. And I honestly think that Lomberg will be a Flame as long as Lomberg wants to be a Flame.
Yeah.
Now, if he says, hey, guys, trade me away and I'll come back, great. But if he doesn't want to, you're not going to do this and then, lose him.
Yeah. I mean, I think if Winnipeg or Toronto was contending for a playoff spot, I could see one of those teams making a run for him, but they're not. So I'm not sure it's out there.
And, again, as I think that there's so many teams that are going to be having depth pieces available. And I still wonder, is Lomberg your first choice for a depth piece? Like I look at Toronto's lineup and I look at a couple other lineups and, I think that if I'm looking for a depth forward, there might be more attractive options, especially if I'm looking for some, offensive spark.
Yeah. Braden Pahal. Um, this would be the other one that I could probably see happening because he's a right shot physical defenseman, and teams love that in the playoffs. I look at this one though as I'm going to go by your time. This is a trade that gets announced after the 1 o'clock deadline. It is done at 12:55. I think that this is one of those depth pieces you get a conditional late round pick for. But I think Braden Pokal can help a team in a bottom 6-7 role, depth defenseman role. But so I could see this one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, looking at the defense, and it's kind of weird to me. Like, Paul had a good season last year, and this year he's kind of been relegated to the 8-9 role on this team. Looking at it just from numbers, I think Joel Hanley at 34 is the guy I'd rather move and give 26-year-old Pahal some more rope. But the fact that Pahal's a right shot at 1.18 million, yeah, I could totally see this being a trade Pahal, get a fourth or something like that. Almost the reverse of what Treliving used to do for the Flames every year.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that one.
I think there's also a space where both Pahal and Hanley are moved.
I could see Hanley's the next one on the list. Here's what I could see people wanting Hanley for some depth piece as well. I think he would be a good depth piece. But here's from the Flames perspective that I wonder. I don't think it's an accident he's playing with Zane Parekh. And I wonder if they want to keep that as close to consistent for Parekh as possible, as opposed to trying to bring someone else in to play with him. Because they really don't have another true left shot option that I think they could be confident in playing Parekh. I mean, they're mixing right now. They're kind of mixing Whitecloud, Ball, Kuznetsov, and Uyghur. I think you want to make things as consistent as you can for Zane Parekh. And there's not really another option. Maybe Nick Cisick, but I don't think that that's a great option.
No, but I think you could also grab somebody on waivers to fill that if you just needed a body. I wouldn't be out there actively shopping. I wouldn't be. I mean, I think that there's teams that might want Joel Hanley. I think that not so much this year because he's got one more year on him, but I could see him again being the consolation prize for somebody. I think Joel Hanley will still be a Flame after the deadline, but I think next year at 1.7, that's the kind of trade you make at the deadline. I don't know that anybody wants to retain a year on a 34-year-old defenseman.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah.
Right, but on a 26-year-old defenseman in Pahal, I'd be okay with that as a GM. But at 34, I really don't want to retain a year when I buy him at the deadline.
Yeah. And the last one on this list is Mackenzie Weegar. I know it seems like his name is coming up, but I feel like this is Rasmus Anderson 2.0. He hasn't had a good enough year that you're going to get a lot for him. And I think if this happens, I think they have to look at this in the offseason, not at the trade deadline. I could see this more. I think we're going to have a conversation about Mackenzie Weegar in the next year's trade deadline. I don't see him being moved yet. I don't think the Flames want to move him. I think they want to put him I think they probably look at him as at least the number one candidate to replace Backlund as captain. And he hasn't had a good enough year, I think, to really warrant that you're going to get a lot for him. So again, I think they wait on Weegar at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't see a reason to sell him. Like I don't. I think fans think, oh, you're going to get lots for him. And as we've talked about, I think that they're overestimating what this player is to other teams. I think that now is not the time. He hasn't had a great year. He hasn't had, I mean, he's a good leader, and I think you need that here as well. But you also can't move out three pieces in one deadline. I don't think that's going to be good for this team. Hey, here's our three veterans, our three leaders. They're all gone. Now we've got Backlund and the kids. Like, I don't think there's any rush to do this. And wait for Weegar, give him another year, see how he looks. If he still looks good, sort of like Anderson, you're selling high. If we sold Anderson in the offseason, I don't think we would have got as much, but I don't see the rush on this. And I think for a guy who's 32, the more years you can eat on the deal, the more attractive that's going to be. Like, I think, he's done in 2031. I think if we can run through this year, maybe even run through next year, teams are going to be more likely to want to acquire 3 or 4 years than 5 or 6.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't see that one at this
But,
point.
again, my whole thing on that is he's 32 years old. If I'm a team bringing him in and I'm a contender, do I want to bring in a 32-year-old who has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more years in his deal? I sure don't.
Yeah. And the Flames are not going to want to retain on that either.
No, they're not. And so now you're moving him to where? Like a middling team? Well, a middling team's what the Flames are. They're not going to want him. Like people keep saying move Uyghur, but to me, I don't see the deal. Show me the team that wants a 32-year-old defenseman with 6 years left.
Yeah. And I think the other side of this too is the other part of this is, yes, of course, for the tankers, they want to ensure that they stay in that top 3. It is, first of all, reminder, it's a lottery. Second of all, this team is already bad. They don't need they don't need to make these trades to, be in the top 3. They're probably going to be top 3, top 5 based on the odds here. And you still need to build a team around whoever you're drafting in this first round. It's not a guarantee, even with McKenna or Stenberg, that you're getting your franchise player there. I mean, you still have to build a team around them. And yeah, I don't think.
And even if you do get your franchise players, we talked about earlier, that guy can't take you on his back by himself. And I think this is when we look at teams that have rebuilt in the last 10, 15 years, I still think this is one of the reasons where the Oilers got it wrong is, in my opinion, they really didn't have those, decent veterans on the team. They put a whole bunch of young guys out there and said, figure it out. And I think whether it's Parekh, whether it's White Cloud, well, I guess not White Cloud, he's older, but whether it's Parekh, whether it's Kuznetsov, whether it's Brstavich, I want that seasoned veteran guy like Uyghur to be the guy that can, take those minutes until the kids are ready and to lead them on and off the ice.
To 2 teams that everybody seems to be enamored with the rebuild are Montreal and Anaheim, and both of them kept around veterans. And added veterans.
San Jose brought in veterans that they brought into Foley when they were at their worst.
Yeah. Well, even Anaheim, they brought in Radko Gudas, who is probably never going to be allowed to eat in a Canadian restaurant ever again, by the way. And they brought in Jacob Trouba. They brought in Chris Kreider, a bunch of veterans to help with their young players. And you mentioned San Jose with Tyler Toffoli, Montreal. Josh Anderson, Brendan Gallagher, Mike Matheson. Those are guys they kept around for as you continue to develop this team that's, looking like a playoff contender at this point. They're not a complete product yet, but they've kept you got to keep veterans around. Like, it's not like, I keep seeing people say you don't need older players. Yes, you do need older players because you need that veteran presence. It's just.
And if in the end we had, Kadri and Uyghur be those guys, I'd be completely okay with that. If they're the older guys that are here on long-term deals that you're not going to get rid of because they're expensive to do so and they're the room guys, they're the leaders, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Like, I think the fans, like you said, kind of think, let's just move everything and blow it up. But I think if you don't have those veterans, you're going to hinder the ability to come out of the rebuild in a timely fashion.
Yeah. And you can't be doing that same thing over and over again. It just steps everybody back, right? Like, you need to have that around you in some way, shape, or form.
And sure. I think being the first time, I think all Flames fans are in agreement this team is probably going to be in the bottom 5. I mean, I don't see anyone in the Flames fan base who's saying, let's push for a playoff spot. I think in some ways, fans have never been through this in Calgary. We've never been through, let's be bad and then get good. And I think in some ways fans are just, almost so excited by it. Let's just do it all right now and get through it. And we got to remember it's a process.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anybody that Eric Francis left off the list that we should be discussing?
I don't think so. I mean, again, I think that there's so many teams. Tell me if you think the same this year. I think there's so many teams that are bubble teams that maybe are in, maybe are out, maybe are barely in. I don't think a lot of teams are going to want to take on a lot of long-term contracts, and that's what the Flames have. I think a lot of teams want to assess that in the offseason, both for the cap rising and also who are we? I mean, I don't think a team like Winnipeg is going to buy or sell because I think they've got another chance at this next year. So I think that there's probably four, maybe five teams that are willing to sell a lot of assets. Everyone else, I think, wants to stick where they are. And I don't see an asset for the Flames. I mean, if somebody calls and anybody, you listen. But I don't see anybody who's going to call the Flames say, I must have Joel Farabee this minute. Here's an asset for him. I think a lot of those things will be done in the offseason because if you just want the rental, the Flames don't have those pieces, right? And I don't see anyone wanting a 35-year-old with 4 years left. So if you're looking for a rental, I think St. Louis is going to get calls. I think Vancouver will get calls for those. Like, I just don't see the pieces that are attractive here.
Okay. Yeah. Let's look at the Western Conference sellers. Calgary, I think we agree. Vancouver, St. Louis for sure.
I think Calgary's a seller, but I think Calgary has limited pieces to sell.
Yeah. But I mean, just to put a label on them, Chicago, they're not a buyer, but I don't know they have a lot.
I think Chicago's willing to stand pat on what they've got and sort of, go through this process. I don't see what you want from Chicago.
Yeah. Winnipeg, I agree with you. I don't know if they're going to be doing a lot.
I think Winnipeg thinks they've got the right horses to do it again, and I think they want to keep that core together.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they're going to ride on the Connor Hellebuyck gold medal success and build on that confidence. San Jose, they are currently 5 points back. I don't think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to buy or sell. It sounds like I think one of the names to watch out for, by the way, is Kiefer Sherwood, who they made a trade for 2 second-round picks, but it doesn't look like Kiwi's going to sign in San Jose, so that will be another person to watch out for.
I could see San Jose buy some depth, but I don't think you're going to see anything big come out of there.
Yeah. The Kings made the Panarin deal. I don't know. They did lose Kevin Fiala through the Olympics. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably a buyer, but I think that they're on the cusp of that. The Predators, I do think
my thing with the Kings, is I think, yes, they might be a buyer, but I don't see what assets they want to give up. And I think to replace Fiala, they're going to have to give up a lot of futures. And I don't know they're willing to do that. I don't think they're that good to give up, say, a couple firsts.
And I don't know if their futures are as good as people.
No, I don't think they are.
Yeah, I would actually argue, just off the top of this, and I'm kind of shooting from the hip a little bit here, but I think the Flames might be in better shape prospect-wise than the Kings right now.
I don't know their prospect pool all that well.
But, yeah.
I mean, the Predators have one piece who said he doesn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Ryan O'Reilly, but I don't think they're buying, but I don't know if there's a lot to sell over there.
And they're also 1 point out of the wild card. I don't think they're going to want to, tank that.
Yeah, I think they're in the position that the Flames were last year, where they may not want to add, but they're certainly not going to subtract.
No, I totally agree with you.
Kraken, Mammoth, I think they probably want to buy, but I mean, and they have the pieces to make an impact move. They'll be interesting. In the Pacific, I mean, I think the Oilers, they can't do anything unless they trade Andre Mangiapane. I think the Ducks will be kind of interesting, and Vegas always does something Vegas-like, so we'll always watch them. Dallas doesn't have a lot to watch. Dallas is probably a buyer, but they don't have a lot of assets. Minnesota is going to be intriguing. Colorado is going to be interesting as well. I mean, they kind of have stumbled a little bit here the last little while. They're 4-5-1 in the last 10 games. So, I mean, I could see them doing something. In the East, I think the Rangers are going to be sellers. I think the Devils are interesting here. I think the Leafs are in an interesting position where
I'm the Leafs are in an interesting position, but I think that sort of like the Flames, they've got a lot of pieces. I don't know you want to take the contracts on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm hearing some people suggest either they trade Matthews or Nylander. I don't know if that happens.
I don't think I really don't think Matthews or Nylander is a deadline move.
Yeah. Panthers, I don't see them doing anything drastic at this point.
Again, I think the Panthers are sort of like we were saying with the Jets, where you know what, they went all the way last year. This year they're out of it, and they're going to want to keep their core and try to run this core back again because that core hasn't changed very much.
And they had no Barkov and no Kachuk this year, so
No,
they had that next year. Flyers, I don't. They're probably sellers, but they don't have a lot that necessarily strikes anybody. Senators, I think they're going to end up selling, but not huge. Blue Jackets, I think. I don't think that they're going to. They're starting to kind of get it together under Rick Bowness. They're 8-2 in their last 10. I think they're going to try to fight for a playoff spot. I don't think they're a buyer or a seller. Washington, I think, as long as Ovechkin is there, they're not going to be selling. And then you got Montreal, Boston, who might be buyers. I guess the team that is most interesting in the East is really Pittsburgh, because what happens with Sidney Crosby, and he's out for 4 weeks. What do you do there? I think that's the most interesting team.
yeah, and even if with Pittsburgh, I don't know that they have the pieces that if they give something up to replace him, they're going to be any better off. I think they're going to need to remove core pieces from their lineup, and I think it might be a wash at that point.
Yeah.
You're not giving up Malkin, right?
No.
Like Brian Rust, I don't think is worth much at this point. They're not going to want to give up Ricard Raquel. So what else have you got there on the forward side that anybody's going to want? I don't think Carlson's going anywhere. The Tang's not going anywhere. So, I just think it would cost them so much to put together a package to replace Crosby that they wouldn't be any better off. I think that's the kind of thing that they look at in the offseason. And if they want to be on one of the guys in Toronto or something, I think those are the kind of deals that are so big, you're going to want to, you're going to need a lot of discussion internally and between the two teams that I think I could see them potentially being in something like that, but it has to be in the offseason.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other side of it is the other question is for the teams this year, I think they're looking at who the true contenders are, and are you really a contender even if you're in the playoffs? Do you feel that you can get around that get out of the first round and beat that one of the top teams? That's a question a lot of other teams are going to be dealing with here. So I agree with you. I think ultimately there's more buyers than sellers. I think that this is I'm not expecting a massive. We always watch, but I'm not expecting a big trade deadline on Friday.
I don't think there's been one the last couple of years.
Well, there's always that. There was the last 2 years. There was that last minute deal last year for Marchand that ended up in Florida, and 2 years ago, Hurdle ended up in Vegas. So there probably is going to be somebody, but
there'll be one or two big deals for sure. But we see a lot of stuff piddle in that's, backup goalie for backup goalie. Like I can't think of last year I said, wow, there was big trades. There's always one or two, maybe one big trade, but it's a team that was good anyways, and they're not really getting better. They're just staying good. I don't think we've seen, I would look at the trade deadline as, more than one team who's changed their fortunes to be a big deadline. And I can't think of the time that happened.
Yeah.
In the last 3 or 4 years. And that's okay. Fans love it. Fans love free agent day too. And I think in some ways the media has made bigger deals of it. Let's have 3 or 4 panels of guys hanging out talking about trades all day. If it was just another day in the NHL, I don't think fans would be as upset by it. But I think the media's hyped it up, and because of that, there's some expectation.
Yeah. But as Brian Burke said, this is the time, trade deadline, July 1st is when most of the mistakes are made. And we've seen that in Calgary. We have absolutely seen mistakes made on both the trade deadline and July 1st. So,
yeah. And I think, Kevin, this might be whether this year or next year, but with some of these deals we've talked about, whether now or down the road, I think this might be the Flames' chance to capitalize on somebody else making a mistake. Like we talked about with White Cloud, right? I think this might be your chance to say, okay, you want to overpay us? We'll take it.
Yeah. All right. Anything else we need to discuss?
I think that's about it. I can't think of anything else in the Flames realm. It's good for them to be back, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go over the next couple weeks. And I guess leading up to the trade deadline, honestly, I think after the trade deadline, a lot of this stuff is for Flames fans. There's not going to be much to watch. There's not going to be much excitement for most fans.
Yeah, the next exciting moment for the Flames is after the first round when they do the draft lottery and where they pick, and then looking ahead to that, I think, is the next point. Um, Still want to give just quickly here before we sign off. Still thinking about the people in Tumbler Ridge. Just an awful situation going on over there. I know that there was a GoFundMe for one of the females people that was shot, and I believe they did make their. It was Maya, I believe her name was, that Haley Wickenheiser was doing a GoFundMe for. Just an awful situation. And again, we did kind of touch on this as well, but our thoughts to a guy that did call some Flames games over the years, but mostly from Vancouver, Jim Robson. Rest in peace. They did a nice ceremony for him when they came back. One of the, it maybe remind me how lucky the Flames were to have Peter Marr as one of their greats. Broadcasters as well. So, but rest in peace there. But yeah, let us know what you've got going on now, going ahead to Dan and on Fireside Chat.
Fireside Chat is back after the break, just like you guys are. We'll be talking this week leading up to the deadline about the games the Flames played since we talked last. We'll have some of the same discussions about free agents, talking about who from the Wranglers might get a look, whether a long look or a short look here. And yeah, looking ahead to that trade deadline, because that's going to be I think the most exciting little bit of the season here for Flames fans. You can find Fireside Chat if you're a Flames fan at firesidechat.ca or wherever you find podcasts.
Or wherever they're sold. And you can follow us. You can follow Sean Beardy Connect 03, Tyler TNOBLE. He got another penalty, by the way. We'll talk about him with that next week as well. And then Chris is Schneids, SCHNEIDZ. Devin, you can find on Instagram. Hopefully we'll get him on here soon. Shifts and Pucks, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. Subscribe wherever you get your audio, as well as on the Hockey Podcast Network. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thank you for listening. We will talk to you all very soon. We'll probably do a trade deadline show on Friday, so stay tuned for that, and a trade deadline preview show for the Canucks. Talk to you soon. Talk to you all very soon. Bye for now.